Sawadee krap. My name is Imtiaz Muqbil. I am the executive editor of Travel Impact Newswire based in Bangkok. This special report will focus on Thailand's plan to impose a tax of 300 baht, equivalent to roughly $10, on inbound visitors with all its multiple complications and implications. In November 2021, the tourism-dependent country unveiled a grand recovery campaign under the slogan Amazing Thailand, New Chapter. This campaign has now been endorsed by the Prime Minister. The country is slowly phasing out the COVID-related restrictions to facilitate a tourism recovery. The chopping and changing is causing confusion and consternation. But the private sector, in dire straits due to more than 2 years of roller coaster twists and turns, is desperate for a return to normalcy. Right alongside the new Welcome Back campaign, however, the government has also announced a plan to tax the tourists. This seems like madness, but there was a reason for it. As these slides clearly indicate, the COVID pandemic has taken its toll on government revenues, forcing drastic cutbacks in budgetary allocations over the pre-COVID period. The budgets of both the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Authority of Thailand are now well below pre-pandemic levels. Thai tourism faces a major challenge in what is now a very tough competitive environment. Funds are short for both marketing as well as product maintenance and development. Tourism budgets have been rejigged across the board to free up money for other more important requirements, especially health. The public health budget figures here are as per those submitted by the Budget Bureau. In fact, they were raised substantially for 2022 after parliamentary consideration. Both the education and military budgets are marginally down. In principle, the tax is designed to more equitably share the burden of paying for unforeseen events. In the pre-pandemic days, the Thai taxpayer bore the full cost of self-inflicted crises and acts of God. According to a briefing paper by the Ministry of Tourism and Sport, in 2010, the domestic political crisis and confrontations in Bangkok's central business district created major travel disruptions which cost the Thai taxpayer 400 million baht. In 2011, floods devastated large swaths of central Thailand, causing several weeks of disruptions. That cost the Thai taxpayer 518 million baht. In addition, the millions of tourists in the pre-pandemic days also meant a significantly high number of tourist accidents and medical emergencies. Not all the victims were fully or partially covered by insurance. According to the MOTS briefing paper, these were the amounts expended to cover just the medical expenses of foreign visitors in these 3 pre-pandemic years. Today, the pandemic is taking its toll. Unlike a political crisis or natural disaster, the pandemic is an open-ended crisis. The Thai government is struggling to walk the fine line between preserving lives and livelihoods. As more tourists return, the medical cases too are rising. Although insurance is now required, it may not fully cover all cases and all circumstances. Some visitors may also die. So the rationale for the tax makes sense. Tourists will be assured that if they do face a medical emergency in Thailand, not just related to the COVID pandemic, they will be covered to a certain extent. There will be less pressure on public budgets, and the money can also be used to maintain the tourism infrastructure. The MOTS claims that the scheme will make Thailand the first country in the world to charge the tourist tax and provide such coverage to visitors. Legally, the tax is allowed under the National Tourism Policy Act 2008. Once the legality was established, Naresuan University was hired to thrash out the details after sounding out all the public and private tourism stakeholders. It decided on 300 baht per person per visit as an optimal rate that would be both affordable and have negligible impact on arrivals. The study also showed that 40 other countries charge different forms of tourist taxes, levies and charges, which are primarily used for product development and upkeep. The university study estimated the tax would generate these revenues. The ministry is projecting a return to 40 million tourists by 2024. Some may find that to be excessively optimistic. What has been the reaction to the idea? Former Tourism Minister Kun Wirasak Kosurat says the agenda for implementing the tax originated under his second tenure at the Ministry of Tourism. He vigorously agrees that the burden should not be carried by the taxpayer, particularly in this hard-pressed economic environment. He feels that the Ministry of Tourism and Sports could do a better job at explaining and communicating the reasons for the tax. He also feels that this is not just Thailand's challenge, but a global challenge, and travel industry groupings need to mount a global effort to alleviate this burden, especially for the developing countries. Amongst the private sector, the reaction has been mixed. This very detailed comment from Kun Suparak Sorangkun, a former president of all three associations covering inbound, outbound and domestic travel agents, reflects a widespread view. He raises many questions as well as many concerns, which former Minister Wirasak says he largely but not entirely agrees with. On 15 Jan, the Association of Thai Travel Agents launched a chat group asking members who want the tax reviewed to list their names. As of 18 Jan, it had 52 supporters. Many details have yet to be sorted out, such as the means of collection. The cabinet announcement says it will be incorporated into the airfare. But in 2021, IATA said it could not find a suitable solution and urged the ministry to put the entire idea on hold. Furthermore, as not all visitors come by air, how will it be collected from those visitors who arrive by road, sea and rail? The government is talking about hiring a private company to oversee it, which opens up another can of worms related to the contract awarding process, duration, good governance, transparency and operating costs. This Bangkok Post editorial also raises some very other valid concerns. This report, also in the Bangkok Post, shows that tourists are making themselves culpable by not following the public health protection rules. Clearly, the Thai public is entitled to ask that if the tourists themselves don't abide by safeguard measures, why should the Thai taxpayer pay for the consequences? Additional points for discussion can be found in this paper prepared for the UN World Tourism Organization in November 2020. Several corollary questions and issues arise beyond just that of a tax, which can and should be explored too. For example, why shouldn't the families and/or governments of the foreign visitors pay their medical bills? Why are there embassies? Exactly how many tourists fall victim to medical emergencies, security problems and accidents worldwide? How has that figure trended over the years? What about taxing the outbound tourists to make them stay at home? Why shouldn't the far more numerous domestic tourists also be taxed, as they too damage local facilities? And finally, should travel and tourism join the global effort to crack down on tax? Perhaps the most important point is it time to slash global military budgets and divert the money from wars and conflict, which have severe impacts on travel and tourism, to the promotion of peace and friendship? There are still many more details to be finalized before implementation. The target date of April 22 may prove to be a little too early, as the pandemic itself is still a long way away from being over. Either way, it is only a matter of time before this challenge garners more attention on the global stage. Thank you for watching. If this report gave you food for thought, please click like and subscribe to the Travel Impact Newswire channel. You can also access my earlier groundbreaking YouTube lectures on my website at the link on the screen. Academics, consultants, and anyone else who uses any of the material, please kindly have the professional courtesy to give credit. Thank you and Sawadee Krap.